6 o'clock Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023. Call to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance using the flag in the front of the room. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Commissioner Morset?
Yes.
Clerk Commissioner Hodgkins?
Here.
Commissioner Kashem?
Present.
Commissioner Mohammed?
Here.
Mayor Jacobs?
Here.
We have quorum.
Additions, deletions, or withdrawals to the agenda? None. Move on to presentations. 5.1, Police Department. Police Chief Howard.
Good evening, Commission. Dave Howard, Police Department.
No, it's not. Okay, I can barely hear you then.
I thought we'd, can I have my presentation on? Marlon? Yes. I thought we'd do something a little different tonight because the new commission. So, the Pembroke Park Police Department, we are a very small boutique agency, and our aim is to ensure that our residents, business owners, and officers are all safe. We strive to provide fast, efficient, effective, and friendly service to each and everyone who needs it. And the figures presented today will reflect not only the hard work of the officers, but also the dedication that goes into servicing the town of Pembroke Park. And I hope you guys enjoy it. Next slide. Next one. Of course, we should start out with the budget. Right now, we've spent $1.8 million so far this year. We will enjoy 6 months of operation in about 11 days. From that, we can subtract $22,000 approximately for reimbursement from a BVP grant, which is the ballistic vest the officers all wear. I have $500,000 here in ARPA funds. However, that's inaccurate. It's much more. We just last month got the commission approval to start a community service aid program to free up the officers. As you'll see during the presentation, our accidents are very, very high in the city of Pembroke Park. We did receive a $104,000 accreditation grant to be utilized towards training of every member of the agency, and some equipment and supplies to get accredited as soon as the building's open. Up to $200,000 in FDLE fibers grant. Then I'm trying to move. Part of that money was to be used for RMS, but I found a free solution for RMS, so I'm going to try to utilize that RMS money as well. And of course, we gave back to the town $1.6 million that we would have had to pay the sheriff's office. So currently, ladies and gentlemen, by opening your police department, we have returned to the city, to the town, approximately $826,000. Any questions? Next slide. Response time for in-progress calls. Our response time is the fastest, has been 30 seconds, and the average is between 2 and 3 minutes. Next slide. The first 5.5 months, and this is a very important slide. I want you to look over on the top. It's the first 5.5 months of Pembroke Park. Of course, these are fluid. We just had another homicide in town 2 days ago, and I don't want to speak about it, but I mean, we're still at 100%. Rapes, 100% clearance. Robberies, 100% clearance. Aggravated assault, 100% clearance. Burglaries, 68% clearance rate. Larceny, 21% clearance. Vehicle thefts, we're at 40%. We've returned 7 vehicles If you look below to the agency previously providing you service, you can see the stark difference in the clearance rates. So, next slide, please. Thank you. This is just an overall. This is typically what I provide to the commission every month. Total calls for service is 620. However, we didn't, just to keep the slide simpler, we did not put self-initiated activities on there, so it's really 899. And you can see information. These are all police reports generated. So information reports, you call, you want a policeman to take a report. Typically, if there's no crime, it's an information report. We wrote 29 of those. Burglaries, there was 10 total burglaries. Accidents, which is the bane of our existence in the town of Pembroke Park. It's we are in the top 35 for highest crash rates in cities our size throughout the state of Florida. It's 57, up from 31 last month. And it says here, moving, non-moving, it's just citations. It's actually 346 citations written for the month of February. And of course, recovered 4 stolen vehicles, 3 stolen tags. We've had 6 incidents of vandalism, 9 larceny. Domestic violence is high as well in the town of Pembroke Park, and that's at 14. And missing persons, we had 1 who was recovered. Alarm calls, total of 35 for the month. Total arrests were 16. That's 10 misdemeanors and felonies. And the rest we've already discussed. Next slide. Now what I've done is I've compared the previous agency to our agency month to month. The only month you won't see here is December, is because we didn't have a workshop in December. So from February 2020 to February 2021, the other agency had 7 arrests, we had 11. Calls for service, they had 698, we had 899. They did 50 accident reports, we did 52. They wrote 50 citations, we wrote 179. In January, numbers were very similar. Arrests 16 to R14. Calls for service 679 to 959. Accident investigations 64 to R37. And citations, they're 43 to R114. November, 8 to 8 on the arrests. Calls for service 630 versus R979. Accident investigations were 61 to R46. Citations, they're 33 to R47. October was our first month, and it was important that we let the community know that we're there. So, you know, it was more of a, I didn't want to go out and just start writing a bunch of tickets and arresting people and whatever, you know, whatever had to be done. I wanted us to get to know the community, et cetera, et cetera. Arrests for BSO were 10. We only made 8. Calls for service were 598. We had 660. Accident investigations are always high, 45 versus 57. And citations, they wrote 34. We wrote 6. Next slide, please. All right. Training. Of course, we have our FDLE mandated training that we have to do, and it's quite a bit. But over and above our training, we've started doing accreditation training for everyone, crime prevention training, crisis intervention team training. I want the entire agency to be qualified and certified as a CIT member. De-escalation training has been accomplished, and we're going to bring it back again later in the year when we're better staffed. Narcan training and stop the bleed training have been accomplished. Grants. The only grant right now that we've applied for in the last 60 days, due to the sheer volume of crashes that we experience in a 1.5 mile town, Requested 3 total Florida Department of Transportation grants. This will include $90,000 in traffic overtime for the officers and $70,000 in equipment. And since there's a brand new commission here, I want to bring up that it's the federal grants are now open, and we have an opportunity to apply for several of these grants, some of them potentially worth 7 figures. So I'd like to know I'd like some direction on whether we should apply for those grants or not.
Can you explain the Cops More grant to everybody?
Yeah, the Cops More grant just opened up. We've applied for it in 2 previous occasions, but because we didn't have our own agency, we didn't have access to the data required for the grant, so we weren't successful. So now we have the data for the grant, and what it'll do is it'll pay for however many officers you put in to get covered by the grant. The first year they'll pay 75% of their salary. The second year they'll pay 50% of their salary. And the third and final year they'll pay 25% of their salary, with the town picking up the remainder. There's also a checkbox, and you can check it off, and if you're lucky they'll pay the whole thing for 3 years. So that's a big one, and I'd like to apply for 4 positions.
Town Attorney? Do you need a vote on this or just direction from the commission? I realize.
You're in a workshop setting, and as the law requires, you can provide for consensus or to the extent that you have some non-objection to the application. This action can be taken in a public meeting at which the public has a right to be heard. To the extent possible, you can take a formal vote on the subject. But at this point, you can discuss it, you can arrive at consensus or have no objection to what's being asked for by your chief.
So he's asking for direction. So
Absent objection from the commission, absent any further direction from the commission, I think the manager as well as the police chief will understand what your direction is.
okay.
If you don't object to what he's actually suggesting.
Is there any objections from the commission for them to proceed for more grants for the police department?
What are the conditions for these grants? Say if we, a couple of years down the line, we change direction with what we're doing our policing.
In other words, you're gonna. What does that mean? How do you change?
Well, what are the conditions for getting these grants?
You have to maintain those positions, whatever gets granted, for 4 years.
For 4 years, okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Chief, do you have to pay any of it back if you don't, or
If you don't want.
if you say you don't use it all for some reason? I mean, you have to give money back.
If we get a grant position for 1 officer and we hire 1 officer, we're going to use it all. And I'm not
Well, it
sure.
says 75% for the first year, and,
The town picks up the other 25%.
yeah, but that's not gonna just one officer, right? That's not covering like one officer salary, is that?
Yeah,
Oh, it is. It's per officer?
right.
Oh, okay.
And of course, I'll be checking the box that says requesting 100%.
Any more questions?
No, and I don't see any reason why we can't agree.
Is there anyone who disagrees going forward with the grants? All right, Chief, I think that's discretion to go forward.
Thank you very much.
Mayor and Commission, just for the record, if without objection you proceed this evening and the grants applied for and the grants offered by the granting agency, you'll still require an agreement to come back to the commission for approval, which has grant conditions. So you'll have a second bite of the apple, or a second bite of the apple.
Right.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Chief Kane here tonight?
No, he's not.
Do you have the report for him?
He didn't upload it. He's out of town.
I'm assuming it's the same as it always is every single month. Doesn't change much.
But once I get it, I'll forward to the commission.
Okay. 7.1, Building Department. Building Department Monthly Report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Clerk Commissioner, Commissioners. Through the City Manager, my name is Steve Pizzillo. I am currently your building official. for at least the last 5 days, so please be gentle with me. Currently, the building department from month to month is pretty much even with their numbers. They're fluctuating slightly. On the big jobs, we did meet with the hospital building for Seneca Town Center to progress them so that they can at least get an early start permit on their project. The storage building and the Wawa are coming along nicely. We have 2 townhouse projects that are in review currently. We are also in the industrial area. We're getting ready to do our first tilt wall on a large industrial project. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them for you.
Anyone have any questions? All right, no questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Code Enforcement, Chief Code Enforcement Officer Ramirez. Code Compliance Monthly Report, February 2023.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Commission. Chief Code Compliance Officer Jocelyn Ramirez reporting for the month of February 2023. I have provided a detailed report of the following summary. For the month of February, we had 5 code enforcement liens, 0 order of dismissal, 8 notice of violations, 50 notice of hearings, 7 final orders, 3 amended final orders, 13 affidavit of non-compliance, 27 affidavit of compliance, and 5 order of abatements. We had a hearing February 15, 2023 that was executed. I've also provided the minutes for that hearing. It's a draft. So you can see, so there can be transparency as what goes on in the meetings and the impositions that the special magistrate confirms. So for the hearing, we had 7 finding of facts, 4 impositions of liens, 5 fine reductions, 3 extension of times, and 2 corrected final orders. Now, the following are pictures of before and after of the compliance for the month of February. Well, a few of them. So in the first picture, you're going to see that there's a truck trailer parked Southwest 30th by the train tracks. You also see a vehicle on South Park Lane parked on the road in an abandoned condition. And a truck parked on the swale area next to Dale Village. At the time, there was also another a van that was being towed because it's been there more than 5 days. The following picture is some bulk trash sitting on the swale. I called the property manager. They took care of it, and you can see the after photo. They removed it. The next photo is in Holiday Mobile Home Park. You can see that they have a shed, sliding doors, an AC mini split, and a canopy that they did without permits, so they were cited for it. The after photo shows that they completed a demolition permit where they removed these items. They also got a permit for the sliding doors, so it's up to code now. Our next photo shows Holly Ridge Apartment, Unit 90. You can see that the whole wall was demolished, and this was work done without permits. The after photo shows that they got their permits, they completed all the work, and the property is back to normal. And that concludes my report. Any questions for me?
What's being done about all the illegal dumping across the town? I drove it the other day, and it's back to everywhere.
So For code compliance, we can only cite the property owner to remove it. As far as finding the actual person that is committing the crime, that's difficult. They have to provide to police any evidence, any tag plates or videos. I can only cite the property owner, unfortunately.
What about the raw sewage that sat at Crosswinds Apartments for 48 hours over the weekend?
So the raw sewage has been cleaned up. I passed by there yesterday. The property manager is very compliant to anything we asked of them. They took care of it on Sunday afternoon, and the water that was sitting there, he said it was rainwater. So the sewage was taken care of on Sunday afternoon. But I did get a phone call from Gina from the health department, and we were working together. We were confirming that, everything was safe for the residents.
Well, I can tell you personally, being there on Sunday and Saturday, that was raw sewage. That wasn't rainwater that was out there. And
No, this was after the fact that they fixed it.
well, they came in and fixed it. The health department came back in on Monday, and there was still sewage out there.
Okay. I confirmed that everything was clean yesterday.
Okay.
I think it was like around 10 a.m. in the morning. And I sent the photos to Gina from health department.
Okay. All right. Any questions? No questions. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
9, Finance Department. Finance Director Brown.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Commission. Nothing in particular to report today. Just wanted to get up here and say congratulations to the newly elected. And that's really it. I'll take on any questions if anyone has.
Where's your monthly report?
The monthly report is not ready. I will be reporting on the next opportunity I get.
That'll be the next month's workshop. We got to have these ready for the workshop.
Certainly.
Any questions? All right, thank you. Human Resources Director Friedman.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners, and I just want to say welcome to our new commissioners. Babette Friedman, Human Resources Director. For the new commission, I'm going to go ahead and provide a booklet with our employee handbook, all of our policies and procedures, and some pending items with our new with our handbook that we want to make changes to, since they had not been updated since I got here. There's some additional ones that now I need to make now. I have any questions for you guys, I can answer them for you.
All right, I got several questions. Noticed at so I pulled an emergency meeting on Wednesday, which the town clerk didn't grant last Wednesday. On Thursday, I had the emergency meeting where the clerk commissioner and vice mayor didn't show up. Scheduled it again on Friday where the town clerk didn't show up. Her assistant wasn't here to record the meeting. The clerk commissioner didn't show up, and the vice mayor didn't show up. So there's a situation pending regarding the building official. Who took action on the building official? What's the current
We cannot
status?
discuss that information until the investigation is completed.
Okay, so as the mayor, per our charter, I'm a head of administration. Have not been provided any information regarding this situation at hand. The complaint, any information provided whatsoever. I just want to explain a couple things from my seat here that just don't look right whatsoever. I already had this discussion with the town manager. He's aware of the conversation we're about to have. Apparently something happened in the building department, and they came to some sort of agreement. That was approximately 3 weeks ago, roughly. I don't remember the date. Then the following week, apparently you and the building official had a negative interaction over the result of a an interview. This is what I've been informed of. Then on Friday, there was a complaint filed against the building official. Am I wrong about any of this so far?
No.
Okay. Then on Monday, the directors, the department heads, they work for the commission. Staff works for the town manager. The commission is responsible for action on the department heads, the way this town is organized. So on Monday, trying to make sure I say it right, you didn't suspend. He's on administrative leave.
With pay.
Okay, so the building official's on administrative leave with pay. Okay, was this brought to the commission prior to any action taken?
Oh, we don't have to. Per our investigations procedure, it allows for the town manager, when circumstances warrant, the town manager may place a employee on administrative leave with pay pending the completion of an investigation.
Okay, he's a director or department head.
It doesn't matter. We
Works
have to
under the
take
commission.
action.
Okay, the reason why I bring this to your attention, because that was done without a plan in place. What you guys may be unaware of is within 24 hours, we have to have a building official with the name on the wall. And our current building official, well, I'll go back. There's two former employees that were both terminated from the town of Pembroke Park. Their information still listed on the website for them and their positions. The building official himself was removed that same day from our town's website. For someone that's on administrative leave, I think it's inappropriate that that day all his information was removed. I understand there's another name hanging on the wall as our building official, but after you guys suspended him, you had no plan in place for what we were going to do, because we have to have that building official or we don't have a town.
I believe
24 hours.
we had a building official within 12 hours.
You did,
Yes.
but you didn't have a plan prior to your action. That came about after the fact.
Me and the town manager discussed that we were going to reach out.
And did you discuss it with any of the commission?
With an investigation, per our policy, we do not have to discuss that.
And the commission's responsible. Now, the town clerk's husband is now our building official through this contract. You see where, from the public's eye, how this does not look right.
I do
Things
not
just
see
do not add up.
I do not.
You do not see it that way?
No.
Okay. This is why I called the emergency meeting, to have this discussion, because it just does not look right. For me, it doesn't look like it passes the headline test of how things came about. There's conflict of interest within the town and positions, and it just doesn't look right. So that's the questions I have for you regarding that situation. Where are we at on staffing?
Staffing currently for our roads and streets, we made an offer yesterday to an applicant and he accepted, so he's going through the background and medical process. For our sewer division, our sewer and stormwater, we had 2 vacancies. We made an offer yesterday to an applicant who accepted and is going through the process. For our code compliance officer, we have pending interviews. We interviewed 1 applicant, but we're gonna continue to interview others. For our public services director position, the town manager is interviewing 2 applicants on Friday.
How many applicants do we have for that position now?
We're interviewing just 2.
Out of how many?
There were 4 applications, like 4 that really almost met the qualifications, but there are 2 that stand out that I want to be interviewed.
They both meet the qualifications for the position?
Yes.
Okay.
One of them applied the previous time, and I told you about it.
Yep. Okay. That's all I have.
Any other questions?
No, town attorney. When all this happened, I was actually speaking with the building department in the morning and found that they had already contacted the gentleman that we now have in the building department. They had already contacted his organization. They had already put in play with the town manager to get the item resolved, and it was resolved within 10 or 12 hours, and I believe that was sufficient. So So I just want to put that on the record.
That's not a question I feel I can answer, but I can tell you that having a chief building official is a qualification of a local government, and obviously that's a factor that needs to be considered. Whatever extent, whatever other issues are relating to who it is or what has happened to get there, you have a chief building official. It does meet the requirements of state law. As you probably know, a chief building official, like a police chief and like a fire marshal, have sovereign power of the state of Florida. Very few people do that are in public life. They get to make independent decisions, and their rights are specifically set forth in the Constitution. I don't think the town was at risk legally, so long as you had somebody that met those qualifications in place. How you got there is not my issue. The issue is that you got there in some form or fashion as described by your department director to the manager, and that's legally sufficient to have someone in place for that purpose.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I
Right.
would like to just make one clarification. When this all occurred, there were going to be two options. It was going to be either Cavender Down and Associates, or it was either going to be Cat. When I went down and met with Lucy, she gave me the phone number. We called that for Cavender Down and Associates. We called them immediately, and within maybe an hour, he was like, "We got you covered," or maybe a couple hours. He says, "We have you covered. We'll be there tomorrow." And that's how quickly it happened.
Okay.
Thank you.
Planning consultant, Michael V. I don't see him. No, he's not here. Is there anything from planning, JC?
No,
Okay. Police Department, Police Chief Howard. 3.1, Mutual Aid, Broward County, Broward School Board.
The MOU in front of you is to gain access to the cameras at the two elementary schools. That would give our officers an advantage in the unlikely event of a incident at the school. And I would recommend we sign the MOU so that we can ensure the safety of both the officers and the children.
Chief, it's my understanding those cameras are only to be used in case there's an incident. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, can you put the, Chief, if you could put the mic closer to you, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions? Okay,
Thank you.
move that to consent. If you have any issues, we'll remove it and discuss it at the next meeting. Public Services Department, JC?
Mayor, yes, I have a number of items here to update you on. As you signed earlier, the sinkhole that's out there, we have a contract that the commission approved to get completed on an emergency basis. That has been signed, and we're getting a date in which they're going to start now. Should have that for you by tomorrow, and I'll share that with the commission. I met with Kane Will and Associates, one of our engineering firms. The stormwater master plan is currently underway. We should have a draft in 2 months. In addition, with Kane Will, I'm getting a proposal from them for the town vulnerability assessment, which we got a grant for, $200,000 grant for, from the Florida Resiliency Grant. Speaking of which, I submitted the contract information for that grant to the state, and I'm currently working with Connie Banash on the grant work plan, which is due on April 4th. Lift stations, the design for lift stations 14, 17, and 19 are underway with Craig A. Smith and Associates, as well as the inflow and infiltration study design that is also underway. The environmental assessment at the Preserve Park is currently underway as well. Field review started this week, and then our consultant, which is Scalar, I think that's how you pronounce it, who is doing that environmental study. They're going to be coordinating, they will start coordination with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife for the protected Florida bonneted bat. As you know, this is for a requirement of the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant that we're going to be applying for. The sanitary sewer master plan is underway through Craig A. Smith and Associates. We have a representative from Craig A. Smith here, if anybody wants to ask any questions there. The FERDAP grant for the Food Forest Walkway is finally in the closeout phase. The last picture, which was required for the hours of operation sign, we had that. I took that picture and I sent it in myself. and that, the closeout process should happen relatively quickly. Last week, we received sealed bids for the roof replacement. We're reviewing those bids, and I'll have a recommendation presented to you at the next meeting. I met with Alejandro Vargas of the Florida Department of Emergency Management to start the closeout process of the John P. Lyon Drainage Project Phase 1 design. And I'm going to be meeting with Keith and Associates regarding this design so we can complete that closeout. In addition to that, I'm also working with the Department of Emergency Management on the other two grants that are open, which is the Town Hall Wind Retrofit and the Southwest 25th Street Drainage Improvements. And lastly, as I mentioned earlier, the interview for Public Works Director, they're going to be this Friday.
We need you please to speak closer to the mic next time, please.
How much closer do I
I
get to this?
understand.
Is it on?
It is.
Mm.
It is.
All right. How many open grants do we currently have?
At this point, I don't have the list in front of me, but there's a number of grants that are open. We did FERDAP, there's
8.
4, and it may be close to 8, yes, sure,
How long have we had these grants out?
before I got here, before my time here, so over 3 years.
So I'm going to say over 4 because they've been longer than I've been here. And these grants are still open. We've had failures in the Public Works Department time and time again with the Public Works directors we've had in here completing these grants. So we have one grant, so the commission's aware, we have one grant that's on its final extension. If we do not fulfill this grant before its deadline, we lose the grant. And I believe that grant is March of 24? Casey, is that?
I have to double check, verify that.
It's sometime in 2024 that grant expires. So we need to complete these grants. I've been harping on these grants being completed for the last 4 years, or mostly last 2. So I got tired of getting nasty letters and extension letters for non-compliance. JC, can you inform the commission how far out of compliance we are with our stormwater master plan?
Well, the stormwater master plan, prior to us starting it again and updating it, was, what, over 25 years old?
22. But
2 years old?
and the sewer master plan?
Probably around the same.
22 years expired on the master grant for the sewer system for the town. And how about for the preserve?
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
The park, the grant for the park, or 30 years, 30 years. We're 30 years non-compliant for the park.
Oh, yeah, that grant, that Land and Water Conservation Fund grant that we had received, I don't know, in 90, whatever it was. And it came to our attention recently, that some of the reports were never done, and, we're catching up now. So,
I took the time to go out with our grant writer and the town manager. We drove around with the grant through the park, documenting everything that we had to do to get into compliance, what we need that's still outstanding. So we submitted everything to the state. Did we get it submitted yet?
I believe so.
I thought so too. We got everything submitted to the state to get in their good graces, but there are still things that we have to complete to get into compliance with that as well. But that's 30 years of non-compliance, another spot we ended up in.
Here, I just got a text from Dee Carper, and she said that all open grants have been extended to 2026.
Okay, 2026, perfect. How many times has the town fixed that sinkhole?
My time here was once before.
Okay. If you're not aware of where the sinkhole is, drive 52nd Avenue, you will find it. At night, you will really find it.
That's the nature of sinkholes.
Hopefully
Come
your
again
car
and again.
doesn't fall in it. The thing is, the town spent a lot of money having it repaired before, and it wasn't repaired properly, so it came back again. So now it's engineered. The engineer explained how they were going about fixing it this time, making a case around it so it doesn't continue to sink in. So he came here, presented to us. Any other questions around Public Works or Public Services Department? Anyone? All right. Going forward. 17.1, discussion. We have a 66th annual gala. The town clerk's gonna have to mail the information out. It's for all 5 commissioners. We have seating for 10 on this one. Believe we need a vote for approval. Town clerk? We need a vote for approval?
Usually it's been up to the commission to make that decision, but it would have to be at the next commission.
That's what I'm asking.
That's fine.
Okay, put it on the next commission meeting. Put it on consent. Anything we don't like, you can remove. Employees, public services, Babette, JC. For some time now, the guys outside have been wanting to discuss pay with the two of you. Since we voted to increase the minimum pay for the town from, I think it was 34,000 to 42,000, they are concerned about their pay and would like that to go up equally as much. They said they've come to you multiple times and you guys have never actually spoke to them on why and what the process is for their pay.
No one has requested to speak with me, sir. And they have spoken to Miguel. They haven't requested to speak to me. And
Babette?
the door is always open.
I think I spoke with them on one occasion, and I spoke with Mr. Nunez a week or two ago, letting him know he could inform the staff that during the next budget year, we can definitely look over it and compare it to what other cities are paying. But currently, there was nothing budgeted for an increase.
I understand there's nothing budgeted for the increase, but they were discussing wanting information from you that they don't seem to be getting, to the point that they're coming to Miguel and myself.
They can come to my office. It's always open for them to come see me. But since Miguel and I were handling public works, they were going to Miguel. And that's what happened.
Okay.
Nobody has requested to speak with me.
All right. Can you two take the time within the next 2 weeks and have a discussion with them?
Absolutely.
It's all the staff outside for roads and streets, sewer and public work, or in Parks and Rec. Right. Next item is mobile home parks utilities. The commission may or may not be aware, years ago, started with Bamboo Paradise, the utilities, which is the sewer systems for the park. It's been talked about many different ways. These sewer systems were either deeded, donated, or sold to the town. After some research, I believe it was a bill of sale. Is that correct?
That's correct.
A bill of sale. The mobile home park communities sold their utilities over to the town for, I believe, approximately $10. So the town of Pembroke Park maintains the sewer systems within the mobile home communities. This has been up for, since JC's been here, we've been discussing this matter and how to correct this problem. Me personally, I own a small airline, one aircraft. That would be like me going to the FAA and signing off the maintenance to my aircraft and having the FAA maintain my aircraft for me while I continue to run my business. Wouldn't be fair to the other airlines that the government's paying for my park or my plane to be maintained. Same goes for the mobile home parks of Pembroke Park. There's no reason the town should be maintaining the private sewer systems and septic systems within these communities. We've been working on this for at least 2 years now, JC.
Yes.
Trying to get this straightened out. The attorneys are also working on it as well, trying to come up with a solution to rectify this issue. But it's not fair to the rest of the town or right for the rest of the town, the businesses, the townhomes, the 8 single-family homes, the condos, that everyone else is paying for the sewer systems within the mobile home communities. So this is just to make you aware of what's going on with that and that we are trying to correct it. It's been a long process because of the way things were done in the past. Any questions?
No, but I would like to say that I think that they kind of set a precedent. Now it's been in effect for years and years. And what will happen is, if they end up doing something about, what will happen is the mobile home park owners, I mean, the renters will end up just getting an increase in their rents.
Yeah, it's a pass-through
It's a
expense.
pass-through type expense, and it's just gonna go on to the owners in the parks, you know.
I absolutely agree with you. The cost will get passed on, and I live in the mobile home communities as well as you, That expense will come back to us. But it's illegal for this to be done the way it's done through the town. So there's some legality issues that go along with it. But two, it's also not right for the rest of the city to be paying for the utilities in a private mobile home community. So it's an issue that is being addressed, and we'll have a solution for it hopefully in the next few months.
Well, as I see it, FP&L pays for their utilities in the mobile home parks, and I don't see any difference.
You pay your own electric in the mobile home park, right?
I do, and I pay rent, and that covers water and sewage.
Okay. Again, the town is paying for the sewage in all the communities. That's all I'm saying. We'll have a discussion about it down the road. Just making you aware of what we have going on. Any other questions?
No.
All right. Town clerk. I have some questions. Why during the election did we not use the digital election process through the county, from the county elections? While I was down there, they asked me, they said they have an electronic system that keeps anyone from being involved within the town with it, that we upload our finance and all our documents up through their porthole. Why did we not use that system?
Because at the time, since this is the first time that we've had an election, it's not required to use that system. And there's also another system, but we have to pay for it, that goes ahead and you are able to upload all the information until midnight, and it keeps everything tracked. But honestly, I was able to do it all myself.
Okay. So in that process, did you have any communication with any of the candidates about their checking accounts, changing their checking accounts?
No.
So the two commissioners that are sitting up here had checking accounts with another bank.
Correct.
Did you have a discussion with them about changing their accounts?
You told me that those other accounts were not going to be able to be used, and I was to advise them of Bank of America being the only one.
Okay.
And therefore, every single person that came in was given the exact same information.
All right. So the way this came about was not exactly as you just implied. We were having a discussion over the checks because I had to order checks because since COVID, Bank of America does not print checks or give you the temporary checks any longer. So you said to me, why don't you use Wells Fargo? And I said, because Wells Fargo doesn't do political accounts. Little did I know that two candidates had had accounts through there. I did not give you any direction to advise anyone of anything after that point. But it looks like you took it upon yourself to let them know that Bank of America was the check.
What happened was that I went ahead and I asked them, did you get political campaigns? Because you have to have political account campaigns. They themselves did the research to find out, and my response was, the only other bank that I'm aware of is Bank of America, and that's because it's what is there in the past from the last election, from the people who had that account.
Okay.
Yeah, I tried to set it up in Wachovia, and they, not Wachovia, Wells Fargo, and they failed completely. They didn't know what they were doing. And so it switched over to Bank of America, who knew what they were doing.
Mr. Jackson also went ahead and tried to do it through his credit union. And I went ahead and told him, you can go right ahead, but that's not going to be possible. As a matter of fact, CC did as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I started there first, and credit union, they refused even to think about it. They say they just don't do that kind of account.
That's the only questions I had. Public Works. Just a discussion with Public Works, so you guys understand where we're at with Public Works.
Mayor, if I could please.
Go ahead.
You went ahead and you made mention of what has happened here with the building department. And let me clarify a couple of things.
I'm not yet to the building department. When we get to that,
I understand, but you've mentioned me personally.
Okay.
Your clerk, and I really want to respond at this time.
when we get to the building department, you will have your opportunity. I'll give you, you're not a commissioner, you're the town clerk, but I will give you the opportunity to respond when we get there. We're not there yet. We're at Public Works right now.
Okay.
Public Works. I want you guys to be aware, we do not have a Public Works official or a director. We have not had for several months. We had one that was there for approximately a year. In that year's time, which I voted against putting that individual in place because she was not qualified for that position, nothing got done for a year in Public Works. We brought another individual in for Public Works. About 4 months into the position, I brought it to the town manager's attention that I had some huge concerns about that Public Works official or the director, that things were not adding up, things weren't looking right, and our Public Works department was starting to suffer. It took several months, but we all came to the same decision that it was time to replace our Public Works. We tried once, it didn't happen. We had another meeting. A few months later, it happened again. Currently, the town manager is also working double duty as our Public Works director. It was split between Miguel, our building official, and our town manager. They were both taking on the task. But right now, any Public Works issues are being handled by the town manager. We need to work diligently to get the right person in place for this position, not to just fill the position, but to get someone who is well qualified, who knows what they're doing, because this position is critical to the town's infrastructure. And without it, the town suffers, our residents suffer, we all suffer. Anyone have any questions? No questions. All right. Building department, building official. Town clerk, go ahead.
I'd like to clarify something that you stated in regards to my husband, who is currently the building official in the town. My husband works for a company, which is Safe Build. They could have sent anybody here, but they sent him because he's in Pembroke Pines, so it's right down the streets. He doesn't really have an option as to where they sent him. We do not receive one dime from him working here because it's through the company. He can work in 20 cities. That's where they send him to, and he makes the exact same salary. Okay? He went ahead and he took the documents down to Bora because they're required by law, and everything got done with more than sufficient time based on the circumstances that needed to be handled immediately. When Natasha was gone ahead and you suspended her, the commission did not go ahead and suspend her. They suspended her before that. So if you want to talk about how things happen, I'm going to bring those forward. One of the things that you're stating is that, because my husband works here, Lisa Cannon was in the building department. Her husband works as an officer. You have the major's father working in the building department, and she's in the police department. You had Dale Greer, who worked here way before I ever probably was around, and Sonia Greer. There is nothing happening that prevents my husband from being the building official here. The only thing that may be preventing him is the fact that he knows what's happening in that department. But he's not going to pick up the phone every 5 seconds to contact any commissioner, because that is abuse of power. In addition, the emergency meeting you were calling, I advised you, we did not have a quorum. There's no reason why we have to sit here for 30 minutes without a quorum, and I advised you several times. Clerk Commissioner Hodgkins was unavailable, okay? And your vice mayor was out of town. At no moment did you respect what was given to you. At no moment did you respect your staff. At no moment did you respect your colleagues. And an emergency, you should know what the definition is, which is something that causes safety and welfare to the community, not because you didn't like what happened.
All right.
No, sir, you have.
We're gonna
plenty of
cut you
time.
off
no,
now.
No. You have gone
Marlon?
ahead and you brought me for. No, sir. See,
Okay.
let me explain something to you.
Okay, go ahead.
You brought this forward, and I have nothing but to state the truth, and that is the one thing that I told you from day one. I will never, ever compromise my ethics, my integrity, and the truth. That is why you and I have had issues, because you don't want to accept the truth. And the truth is, every single time I've tried to help you and try to explain to you what, yes, sir, I haven't lost your respect at all. I haven't said one thing to disrespect you, but you have not, you are the one who signed that resolution, and you used that same resolution and threw it out the door when you brought employees here to berate them. When you brought employees here to hurt them. When you brought employees here to fire them. When you had them on the agenda every single month.
All right, so I'm going to go forward and say, I never said anything specifically negative about your husband. The obvious fact that he was brought in and he's your husband to the town with the situation at hand does not look right. It does not pass the headline test. It does not look good for the town at all.
Then all people in the town should be removed that are working here with another
Marlon?
family member here.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Can I have the floor for a moment, please?
Go ahead.
When I sat on this commission for a number of years, we've always had a contract with Calvin Giordano and also with CAP Government Services to provide coverage for the town, for the building department. That has been in effect for many years. I don't know exactly the length of time it has been, but that has been in effect many years. They have always sent coverage whenever the town has needed to have coverage. As an employee of Calvin Giordano and Associates, as well as CAP Government Services, they have the ability and have sent people over. We don't really get a say-so in who it is sometimes, but they have provided us with the coverage. In a case of an emergency, when we don't have a building official, they have picked up the slack and come in and provided us with service. This is very similar to what has happened in the past for the town, and it will probably continue to happen if this happens again. When you have an emergency, it's the responsibility of the city manager to deal with it. And I think that the staff has done a wonderful job in fulfilling that position in the short time frame that they had with the contracts that were available without having to call for an additional meeting. In addition to that, knowing that your vice mayor has been out of town, we do not have a quorum in this commission for 3 years. Fully and truly, if one person is out, you don't have a quorum to have a meeting. This man has been on vacation. He has told the commission that he was going on vacation. He has told the clerk. I do not understand why we are spending money, wasting the employees' time and the attorney's time. I would like to know, is the attorney going to be reimbursed for having to have been here, knowing that a meeting was called without having a quorum? Because it's not fair to the taxpayers to be footing a bill knowing that there was no quorum to have a meeting to begin with. So I would definitely like to get an answer to that at the next meeting. Thank you.
Two things I have to bring forward and address. One, any commissioner up here at any time can call an emergency meeting. It's not up to the town clerk's authority to determine what an emergency is or what is not. Nor is it to the town clerk's position to determine if a quorum is there or not. Her responsibility is to let the commissioners know that there is a meeting that was called, an emergency meeting that was called. Clerk commissioner sitting right here next to me was here in town. I know he was in town because I saw him. I saw him pull hole into his house not too long before we had the meeting. Also drove by his house before the meeting on Wednesday and after, and his car was there both times. Times to be exact was 5:18 p.m. and 6:38 p.m.
Not that everybody needs to know this, but I had 6 teeth out that day, and I got a new grill.
So,
And that's why I wasn't here, and I was also informed that there was no emergency, that the issue had been taken care of by our capable staff.
and furthermore, I was not provided that information with the town vice mayor being out of town. You never told me he was out of town or going out of town.
I
So-
told you that I had no quorum. What he provided me.
So I will
don't
be
know.
very
It's
clear.
like I'm giving information on an individual, which if there's no quorum, there's no quorum. I don't have to tell you why there's no quorum.
Again, your position is not to determine if there is a quorum or not. Your position is to schedule the meeting.
Go ahead and go around me and violate sunshine like you have done with other employees that I have found out.
Marlon.
Go ahead and continue with the path you're going down. It's fine. I'm completely okay with it. You do what you got to do, and I will do the same, all right? This is completely inappropriate behavior for a professional like yourself up here. So we'll continue on Friday. The town clerk did not show up for the meeting as well. I did call upon the meeting again on Friday, so that was 3 meetings that I called upon, all for the issue of what was going on in the building department, the building official, along with Public Works, because losing the building official also meant we lost the Public Works director. So we'll continue on. If anyone has any questions they'd like to ask about that. Nope. All right. USDA loan. So the town had this loan they took out many years ago through the USDA. It was at 4.7% interest, and it was a $2.3 million loan. The only way we became aware of this loan was the USDA called in the note last year. We had to pay out $750,000 to pay off a loan that we didn't know existed. The finance director, through all the budget review processes in the 4 years that I've been here, they've never been clear. Now, this loan was also backed with bonds and all sorts of stuff that made it a legitimate loan for the town. What it says is the loan went towards infrastructure, $2.3 million for infrastructure. Here's the problem. We can't find the expenditures for the loan. Have you been able to? Sorry, I'm going to bring the finance director up. Have you been able to find those yet?
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. No, we have not been able to locate those expenses for the loan.
While most people don't think I'm glad you're back, Ashura, I'm actually glad you're back because we have $2.3 million we need to account for. And you were here at the time as the mayor, and we don't know where the money went. We can't find the expenditures for a $2.3 million loan that went out to infrastructure of some sort. Believe some of this, from what I got by asking around, some of it went to lift station 17, but we have no record of where it went. Currently, in our legislative budget request, I went up to Tallahassee trying to get $1.7 million for lift station 17. If you guys don't know what that is, please take note. That's Watkins Elementary. If we lose the lift station, we lose the elementary school. This lift station was held together with Band-Aids long before I got here. It's being held with duct tape, Bondo, 2-part epoxy, and a little bubble gum right now. It's in really bad shape. But this thing goes down, we lose an elementary school. So we have a process to go forward to try to fix this, but we did have a legislative budget request for 1.7, and the town's putting up 350,000. This is an issue for the town. But the thing is, when I fill out my documents for the town now this year for our budget, I gotta say, I don't know where this money is because I don't know where it went. We cannot locate the expenditures on where it went. So if you have an idea where the money went or where the expenditures are for it that we could find to cover this loan, that would be great.
Okay, so I know that this loan has been voted on repeatedly on this dais. Vice Mayor Clark is here. He knows, Vice Mayor Clark is here. He knows that this loan has been voted on by the dais, and you guys are gonna have to look at the minutes carefully because it has been discussed repeatedly on this dais. It was renewed a few years back because it was one of those loans that you could get where you had the ability to renew it. I'm not sure the terms of the loan, but you're gonna have to actually do the work and look through the minutes to find out because it has been brought on this dais, and Chris Ryan was the attorney who handled it.
Okay, so I understand there has to be a resolution because we took out another loan for the police department. We had to do a resolution passed by the dais to get that. So I know those documents are there. We have some of the generation documents for the loan. We don't have the expenditures. That's where the problem is. That's $2.3 million with no expenditures. That
There's expenditures there. I don't have access to it. I don't have the records in front of me, as this is the first time I'm having this discussion and being on this dais, and for about since November 4th, 2020. So I don't really have access to all the
Well-
records, but the records are there, and somebody's gonna have to look for it. So, I mean, if you give me some time and access to the town's Z drive, if it's still on the Z drive, do we still have that Z drive? Since I haven't been here for 3 years, I don't know. Oh, okay, so the Z drive is moved. If you give us some time, you will be able to find it. If you look through the old agendas, I mean, I could start looking through my phone at some of the agendas, because I do know that this was discussed before I left, where this loan was actually renewed to cover additional lift stations and drainage in the city.
I
It
get
was
that. I'm
always
just
for
looking.
drainage, but I mean, I was not in Public Works. I've never been over Public Works. I know that the loan was there to cover the lift stations and the drainage in the city. So I can't tell you exactly. I wasn't out there with a shovel, nor was I out there.
But you were the mayor for the last 9 years.
I was the mayor, but the loan is longer than 9 years old. Just so
It
you know,
is.
the loan was when? When was the loan originated? 2003, 2002, 2001?
Somewhere around there.
Okay, so before I moved to Florida, the loan was originated, and I'm being held responsible for
No,
the
actually, it
loan.
was 2004 or 5.
Okay.
I'm not trying to argue with you. What I'm trying to ask you is, can you help find the expenditures, where
How
the
am I
money went?
supposed to find the expenditures? I'm the
Well, you're
mayor, I'm
back
not
now.
the day-to-day staff. Okay, I'm not the day-to-day staff, and you're asking me for something. I was just sworn in on Monday after running a campaign. I haven't been here since November 4th, 2020. So this is the first impression I have. There's been no backup on this, even though we had a rule that backup should be provided at least 7 days prior, so that the commission could have an opportunity to go over it. To look up this information, I could have made phone calls to ask the former attorney, Chris Ryan, who would have been responsible for dealing with the paperwork for this.
Okay.
In an effort to bring this conversation to a close, I recall when we paid off the loan, I know Harry at that time, the finance director at the time, he had a file.
Can't hear you.
He had found the file. He found the file, and it had a lot of information in it. What information it was, I don't know, but I'm gonna locate that file.
We've seen the file. We both have read through it. It doesn't have any of the expenditures, and that's my concern, is that there's no expenditures for $2.3 million. Now, on a loan that I didn't know was renewed, but now I know was renewed. I don't remember reading about a renewal in the process of reading through everything to find out where it went. So,
Our
okay.
office will continue to dig in the files, not the evidence room, but the closet with all of the files, and hopefully we can find something we have not given up. We'll continue to look.
Thank you. All right. 17.5, Commissioner Mohammed, League of Cities.
Okay, so now that you have a full commission, there are several appointments that need to be made at the next meeting. The Florida League of Cities has positions that we usually sit on. We sit on different committees. So if you could get with the clerk or someone in staff to decide what positions you want to sit on for the Florida League of Cities, because they have like an advocacy committee, transportation committee, accounting committee. We usually have commissioners sit on those committees. There's also the Broward League of Cities. You usually have someone who sits on the board of directors for that, as well as the MPO Association. So those are positions that will need assignments at the next meeting on April 12th. And so we need to figure out who would sit on what committee. And if you could put your name in to let the clerk know which positions you'd like to sit on. We need everyone to participate in this because it's very informative to help us get acclimated to where we need to be, what's going on with the county, going on with the state, and with DC. So that's what I'm asking for on those, is for the assignments for the 12th.
And just so you guys are aware, I attend the Florida League of Cities, the Broward League of Cities. I sit as a board member on the Broward League of Cities. I sit as a board member on the Florida League of Mayors, also involved with the U.S. Conference of Mayors. All of these commissions, like Commissioner Mohammed just said, this is where we get the resources for the town. There's plenty of training opportunities while you're there. You can take lots of courses that help you understand your position a little better, help you understand infrastructure, social media, There's opportunities, cybersecurity, every opportunity for you guys to learn. But sitting on the boards helps bring infrastructure back to the town. They also have plenty of vendors that you can meet with at every one of these events. So being involved with the League of Cities is very important for the town. Anyone else have anything on that? Nope. All right. MPO
Covered that one. That was
Okay.
also getting someone assigned.
assignments,
That's the assignments.
authority to send people to IEMO.
Okay, so the Florida League of Cities does classes for newly elected officials as well as seasoned veterans. They have 3 series of classes that will take place over weekends throughout the next couple of months, and different locations throughout Florida, whether it's Destin, Florida, or Fort Walton, or somewhere else. But I think that everyone needs to take the opportunity to go to these classes, and so I would like to get the authority for the commissioners to attend these classes in the near future. And so if we can put that on the agenda with an amount not to exceed whatever, the classes are free. I think we just have to cover the transportation for the commissioners to go.
Is there a list, a schedule of when
It's on the league's
It's on the
website.
league's website.
we'll provide that?
All right.
Just on that same note, the Florida League of Cities has webinars all the time, and they're really good. I saw one yesterday on ethics, and they're good refreshers. And if you're new, it's good to watch them, and you can learn a lot from them.
And also, I know the clerk sent you guys out notices. You have to do your 4 hours of ethics training. And that the Office of Inspector General is putting on the next one, right? Yeah, I think so. The OIG is putting one together for newly electeds. So,
They do, Mr. Mayor, they
Yeah.
do, so does the Broward League of Cities, we're a council of the League of Cities. We work with them, just had a session recently, and you do have to have 4 hours under the Broward County Ethics Code within the first 120 days of your being elected. And then as an elected official, you need 4 hours as well, so the newly electeds need 8 hours, by the way.
that's what it was. New electeds need 8 hours, so you got to attend
And
2 of them.
And of every 4-hour segment, there must be 2 hours which is interactive. So I'll be happy to speak to the issue when my time comes up this evening, but to the extent that we can assist you, whether you want to have us assist you under the Broward County Ethics Code, your local government lawyer is a source that you can rely upon to provide the presentation. The League of Cities is also a source, so is the OIG's offices and the Florida League as well. There are many different sources, but the code, the Broward County Ethics Code as drafted does allow your city attorney, town attorney to in fact provide that service, which we do regularly in other venues besides here. I'll speak to the issue when my time comes up this evening, but it's a requirement. I want you to all be thoughtful about that as we proceed together.
We'll also like to add at the conference for the League of Cities, they always have a ethics training going on up there, so you can,
Camp every time there's an election, actually.
yeah. So you can make sure you get that taken care of. But those 8 hours are important. It's very informative. And then it comes to 4 hours your following years. You have anything else? Any questions on that?
No.
All right. Abatement request for Finney and Bordiga.
Okay, so we have an abatement request for Ms. Feeney. You will have the information for the next meeting. She is a resident of the town of Pembroke Park. She lives on 55th Avenue, and I've asked Stephen to look into it. She has received a bunch of fines for some issues that I've asked Stephen to look into, and she's requesting an abatement because they're trying to foreclose on her house currently. And so we will, as a commission, you have the authority and ability to abate fines sometimes, and so this one, I would like to ask for us to abate her fine to cancel her foreclosure.
Has this one gone through the special magistrate and completed its process through the town's processes?
I believe it has. We'll have a full report for the next meeting.
Okay. Questions?
None.
All right. Citizenship Drive.
I got a request from numerous citizens when we were knocking doors that they would like to have a citizenship drive. Currently, the county does one every other month up in Lauderhill, which is kind of far for our residents to travel. So I would like to have one here locally for our residents to come out to work on getting their citizenship.
Commissioner, if you would like, I can reach out to, the county administrator, Monica, and see if we can
Get it scheduled.
Questions? All right. Job fair.
And same thing, we had numerous requests from residents that they were looking for jobs, and I know that several of our vendors are currently hiring and have been hiring, as well as some of the businesses. Miramar just did a job fair in their city with one of our bigger businesses of Coca-Cola. So I would like to get our local businesses together to do a job fair to hire locally in our community with our residents. So if we could possibly get that, start working on that, that would be a great opportunity for our residents and our businesses to hire locally. If you don't have any objections, commissioners.
Nope, absolutely not. Good
Thank you.
idea.
That's it for me.
All right. 18, town clerk comments. Amendment ordinance in the Code of Sunshine.
Okay, so there's a reason why I put amended ordinances in the code. When the election took place, there was a lot of things that happened that really were not in our code. Things like the signs and the dimensions. Also, when there's a tiebreaker, it's done by what's called
Drawing.
drawing lots, which is drawing from a hat. So I think that, that was done in 1958. I really do think we need to revisit that specific ordinance and just go through it and just make sure that we have another system in place. Shall we need a runoff? So I will be working with the attorney, our manager, and to be able to dissect that section and then bring it back to you for your approval, your recommendations, so on and so forth. Sunshine Law, because you guys are newly elected, I wanted the attorney to provide you just with some insight about what the Sunshine Law is. But if you could give me just 1 minute, I'm going to do my last one and then you can go ahead. I will be providing all of you with a book that has your charter, your budget, district maps, just about every document that we think that you are going to need to be able to be successful. It also has the Florida League of Cities Municipal officials handbook. So we will be providing you with all of that as soon as we get it all together. And it's just that every single time that I think, okay, I've already got this, there's something else that I think about. I'm like, oh no, I need to add this to it. So just want to make sure that I give you as much information as possible to make your jobs a lot easier and you can have a better cohesive meetings moving forward. So that's what I wanted to mention to you guys. I'm very grateful and thankful that we have a commission that will go ahead and work together to move the town forward. So thank you very much. Congratulations to you all. And Mr. Attorney, if you would like to go over Sunshine a little bit.
Good evening. Part of what I'm going to talk about is part of what you need to be studying, so to speak, with regard to the 4 hours of training. But allow me to spend just a couple of minutes of your time. I was not expecting to make a presentation. Your thoughts, I'll give you mine regarding how you were here this evening. About 48 hours ago, you swore an oath in this room. I was here actually with my law partner, Jacob Horowitz, and we observed you taking an oath. And that oath changed a lot of things about who you are and what you do. Before you took that oath, you were private citizens, and you ran for office. And you ran for office under a process of the Florida Constitution, the State Election Code, and your own city code and city charter. But when you took that oath of office, you changed. And what changed around you is the fact that you no longer, your public life is now part of your private life, which means that you are intertwined. So when you go to Publix, or you go to CVS, or you go to any store locally in the area, you're no longer just a private citizen. You are a public official, and you're a public official 24/7. There are certain laws that apply to you on a 24/7 basis. It may seem like an ominous thing. It may seem like a very egregious thing. It may seem like a very serious thing. I'll tell you that's a very important thing. And there are, and you'll learn during the course of the 4 hours of training that you'll get from either our office or you'll get from the League of Cities, and we teach those classes for the League. We've been doing it for years. There's some very important laws to walk away with this evening, to at least have some very basic knowledge that you'll take with you. The first of which is the Sunshine Law. What is the Sunshine Law? I could stand here for a number of hours and explain to you how it works and how it's intertwined, but we don't have 2 hours. We have just a couple of minutes. I'm going to just cite to you what the importance of it is, and you'll take away what you need to. The key is that you have a lawyer, whether it's me or my law partner or a law firm or members of the law firm. If you have any questions of any kind about anything that affects your public life, there's an old ad that used to be on TV with Fran oil filters. You may remember. It's called Pay Me Now or Pay Me Later. It is much better to have asked your lawyer a question that may take just 5 minutes of time before you make a mistake unintentionally that you can't fix later. And the objective is to make sure that you're thoughtful about the fact that you do have good legal counsel and available legal counsel that are accessible to you 24/7 as well. But there are basically 4 laws that require some attention. And they're not just in the state statutes. They're in the Florida Constitution. The Florida Constitution, Article 1, Section 24, not Article 25. Article 1, Section 24 is the Florida Sunshine Amendment. It was adopted in 1968. Okay? Some of you weren't born in 1968. That law is a very significant law and affects everybody in this room, not just the people standing here and behind me, but all of you as well. The Sunshine Amendment to the Florida Constitution provided for 2 components, one of which was the Sunshine Amendment included public records under Chapter 119 and sunshine and public records for the purposes of having public meetings, the Sunshine Law. So the Sunshine Law itself is derived from the Florida Constitution. It's in Chapter 286. 286. Please write that down. 286 is a book. I didn't bring it with me. I would have brought it with me. It's the Florida Sunshine Manual. It's a document that's been published for 40 years, every year by the First Amendment Foundation in Tallahassee. It cites the cases and the law that gives you a very good explanation of what it's all about. But the Sunshine Law basically says that in this room, and this is a public meeting. The public has a right of access. The doors aren't closed. People can walk in the door and they're free to be here at any particular point in time. There are 3 things that have happened tonight which you probably know. This meeting was advertised. It was posted, so the public has a right to be here to know what's happening. The second part of which is you have a city clerk sitting there with a recording machine. This meeting is being taped. It's being recorded. So there are minutes being kept of the meeting. And the third thing is if it were a regular meeting of the city commission, of the town commission, everybody who is a member of the public has a right to be heard under Florida law and under the Florida Constitution under Chapter 286. But the law also tells us that because you are no longer only private citizens, any 2 or more of you cannot have any discussion, conversation of any kind regarding any matter which may foreseeably come before the town commission. Any 2 or more of you cannot have any discussions of any kind, sort, or description outside of this public meeting, which is not otherwise noticed for the public, where minutes are kept, and where the public has a right to know. Florida has the most liberally construed sunshine law in the country. That's a fact, the most liberally construed sunshine law in the country, as well as the public records law. The end result of this is that you can talk about the weather with your colleagues on the dais outside the room. You can talk about your children. You can talk about the Marlins or the Dolphins. But you can't talk about public business. And you never know who's listening to you. You never know who's behind you or in front of you. There's one county commissioner from Escambia County some number of years ago who was the president of the Senate. And essentially that gentleman who was in the Senate and helped to write the Sunshine Law back in the day became a county commissioner in Escambia County. And guess what? He got busted back in the day, not many years ago, and he was a public official who went to jail for violating the Sunshine Law. And there are criminal penalties and civil penalties. This is not just a threat. This is the law of Florida, and it's a serious thing. It's as serious as a heart attack. The end result of which is that when you walk out of this room tonight, please be mindful of the fact that although you may have colleagues on the dais and friends on the dais, and you may still be friends from the dais when you leave the room, but the business of the city, the business of this town, needs to be conducted in a public session, a public forum. I can give you dozens of examples of how this law applies, but I just want you to have one takeaway, which is you can't discuss public business anymore. It can't be just discussed. It cannot be in writing. It cannot be discussed publicly, privately, and it cannot be exchanged in emails. And by the way, emails are a curse and a blessing. Be careful what you email, because what you email on public business is public record. And that's Chapter 119. Chapter 119 also derives from the Constitution of Florida. Chapter 119 is pretty simple in scope. Basically, everything in this room, any piece of paper that's on your desk right now, or is sitting with the city clerk, or sitting with members of the department directors, is a public record with very limited exceptions. Florida has a lot of exceptions, but they're limited in the context of confidentiality and privilege. So be mindful of the fact that documents you receive from the city, documents that you exchange with residents, the public business that you conduct as a public official is public record with very, very limited exception. And the law basically provides 4 exceptions, only 4, for when you are able to meet in a private session, one of which is in litigation. If you're in a lawsuit and you need the advice of your lawyer and your city manager, only the commission and your city attorney and your manager can meet with you in a private session. That's called a shade session. But guess what? Even when you have a shade session, there's a court reporter sitting in the room. And you begin with a public meeting, you repair to a private session, you conduct your business, and you then repair back to the public. And the end result is a transcript kept of that discussion. And that transcript is a public record. It's sealed until the case either settles or gets to the highest court of jurisdiction in the state of Florida and is otherwise open to the public. The second option is, or the second issue is when you're negotiating with your labor unions, collective bargaining agreements. There may be times when you've got a police union. It's being formed right now. It's in process. Ask the chief. Ask your city manager. PERC discussions, the Public Employees Relations Commission, Tallahassee. Collective bargaining agreements. When you are having a meeting with your chief executive officer and your police chief regarding labor issues under Chapter 447, those are privilege and communications. There's no public record of that conversation. So you got public meetings here, sunshine. You got shade meetings with regard to litigation. You have labor negotiations as well. There's also another exemption under state law, and that's the security of public buildings. It was adopted after 9/11. And what that statute tells us is basically that you don't want to tell the terrorists where the keys are to the water plant. You don't want to tell them where the keys are to the building. There's a reason you have keypads in this building. There's a reason you have access code issues. There's a reason for that, because there are still private spaces in public buildings. But the end result of that is the fact that there is an opportunity to have you meet with your chief executive officer, your town manager, with the police chief, with others in a closed-door session to discuss those issues that relate to public safety and the protection of public access and things like that. So you get 286, which is the Sunshine Law. You get Chapter 119, which is the Public Records Law. I also want you to make note of Chapter 112. 112, Part 3. That's the mother lode right there. That statute is the ethics code for public officials. Every public official. You, the manager, the department directors, and guess what? Even me. There's a provision in Chapter 112 governing local government attorneys. I helped to write that section back in the day, just FYI. And when it was being discussed in Tallahassee, I was consulted and I did provide my notes and comments. I file a Form 1 just like you do. Okay, I've been doing it for a number of years, but the key result of that is that local government lawyers are under the same constraints as our other public officials. So that ethics code doesn't just apply to you, it applies to other people as well. There's also and I'm going to close, I know time is short, the Broward County Ethics Code. That's another mother lode of information, by the way. We don't have enough time tonight to talk about that code, but I will tell you that it exists. And it's enforced by somebody down the street called the Inspector General, who was established by the Charter of Broward County. It didn't happen by accident. It was changing the charter. It was voted on by the population, by the electors of Broward County, and the OIG is a real person. John Scott is the Inspector General of Broward County. He was employed by a selection and qualifications committee. He has significant authority. He's not a prosecutor, but oh, by the way, he was a prosecutor before he became the Inspector General. He was a federal prosecutor in Washington, D.C. He was called an ASUSA, an assistant U.S. attorney, who have basically more power than most people. Life itself, an extremely important position. John Scott is leaving the office, I think, on May the 1st. He has an office. By the way, all of his employees that work there are former police officers, forensic analysts, FBI agents, former military, and related activity, and basically former military employees as well, and FBI agents as well. So from the standpoint of the laws, Chapter 286, the Sunshine Law, Chapter 119, Public Records, Chapter 112, Governing Ethics in Government, with Part 3, which applies to all of us, as well as the County Ethics Code. And then we'll talk more later at some point in time about the rules and regulations governing the OIG. I don't want to scare you. I don't want to alarm you. I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable, but I will tell you that when you leave this room, And you took that oath 2 nights ago, 48 hours ago. Life changed for you. And by the way, the laws that apply to you tonight also apply to you when you got elected, because commissioners-elect are referred to in state law. And the day that you're the commissioner-elect, you're prescribed by the same rules, regulations, and policies and laws that you started with this evening, as a matter of fact. If you have any questions, any doubt, anything that causes you any concern of any kind, you can rely upon, by the way, it's in the statute, in Chapter 286, if you rely upon the advice of your lawyer and you tell the lawyer all the facts and circumstances regarding an issue that may relate to a 286 issue, you're protected under the statute. If you don't tell your lawyer the facts, that's another issue entirely. But the fact is that you do have legal counsel to help you and to guide you as if and when possible. And I think that that's something to take away this evening as well. I'm happy to answer questions. I know that this is a very important topic. I'm not giving it short shrift, but I don't mean to scare you or alarm you, but I want to make sure that you understand that when you leave this room that there are third parties that you don't get to control. You don't get to control the state attorney's office. That's an independent constitutional officer. You don't get to control John Scott, who's the OIG for Broward County. You don't get to control the Florida Ethics Commission. And by the way, the Florida Ethics Commission is in the Florida Constitution as well and state law. It was established in, I think, 1976, as the case may be. But the end result is that that's also an organization that has umbrella jurisdiction over the town of Pembroke Park. And you also have the Florida Elections Commission. So you have the FEC, the Florida Elections Commission, the Ethics Commission, you get your OIG, and you have other jurisdictional boundaries, so to speak, and measuring points that really do matter. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any, but I just wanted to give you just a very short review of things. But any two or more of you cannot begin to discuss any matter that may come before this commission foreseeably. And if you have a conversation, the law basically talks about the crystallization of ideas. What does that mean? That means that if you're having a conversation about something that may foreseeably come to the commission, stop talking. Stop talking about it. I don't mean to say this in an offensive way, but if one of your colleagues for some reason wants to have that conversation, out of respect, you can say thank you, but I don't want to discuss that topic. It's not to say that you can't have dinner with your colleagues or you can't go to social events, which, by the way, are legally permitted. But social events are, guess what? Your children, baseball, and the weather. You don't talk about the things that are being done in this room, because at any one particular point in time, there are people standing behind me that I can't see right now. They're members of the public, and they have a right to know in Florida. Like I said, the statutes governing this issue under the Constitution and statutes, the most liberally construed sunshine law in the country, and the courts support this. Notwithstanding what may be happening in Tallahassee, and by the way, I'll just close with this, there are some laws that are pending in Tallahassee right now which are tremendously preemptive to local government, the worst I've ever seen in my career as a lawyer. By the way, you file a Form 1, 60 days from now, you may be filing Form 6. What's a Form 6? Well, Form 1 is basically information about where you derive your general income from, okay? Doesn't tell the public the exact numbers, doesn't tell your net worth. A Form 6 is filed by county commissioners, by judges, by state reps, by state senators, and by governmental officials, not by municipal officials. There's some legislators in Tallahassee this year that want to impose it upon you. In fact, they dropped from the bill just last week the revision about city managers. It's requiring city managers to also file financial disclosure. It was called full financial disclosure. That's a bill that's up there that's pending. There's even a bill in Tallahassee right now that governs waste collection and interfering with your right to essentially have franchise agreements with your franchise haulers. It's going to cost the city of Pembroke Pines $4 million a year if that bill passes in lost franchise revenue. That's a lot of money, as a matter of fact. That bill is also pending. There's also a bill that says that in the context of your contracts with your city manager or city attorney, that they cannot be executed, they cannot be renewed or extended or modified during certain times of every year, which some ox got gored in Tallahassee. I don't exactly know who it was or why, but that's also in a bill. There's also a bill that tells us, for example, that if you are running for office as a for municipal office, and you run nonpartisan, as you know, it would require nonpartisan races when you do advertisements that you must disclose your party affiliation, which is anathema to state law. But that's what they're doing in Tallahassee. A lot of preemption. I want you to know that. That's all part and parcel of what's happening. There's some bills up there for residential, what do you call it, VRBOs and other types of tenancies of that type. A lot of things happening in Tallahassee. The session's 60 days. They just started and they get a lot of stuff happening. But the laws that I want you to walk away with, just generally speaking this evening, is the Sunshine Law, the Public Records Law, the Ethics Law, the Ethics Code of Broward County, which applies in every city, by the way. It applies to you as public officials. It does not apply to staff. It applies to the county staff, but not to city staff. But Chapter 112 applies to all staff. And we can talk about that at some future moment. I know time is limited. Forgive me for having imposed on your time this evening, but these are the things that I think you should walk away from and have some knowledge of. I'm happy to answer any questions you might want to ask.
Attorney Corn, can you do, the town clerk mentioned it, can you just do a quick talk on the town's charter real quick, the purpose and where we're at on the charter review?
I can, and Jacob gave me some notes on that.
I figured he would have.
Yeah, he did, actually. He's actually visiting his family in Denver. His brother lives there with his kids. Let's see. The note specifically talks about, the training is the issue that we wanted to make sure we covered with you, and that's important. But I know that the item 17, let's see. As you know, the Charter Commission, the Charter Board has been meeting now for several months. And I believe that they're about to finish their work and come up with a recommendation to the town commission for the purposes of consideration. For that purpose, it's important to note that the next meeting is, let's see, the 20. The Charter Commission, your Charter Board is meeting. They're making certain recommendations. Those are all public meetings, by the way. And whatever work they come up with, they're recommendations to the commission. They're not requirements. So whatever that may mean, you ultimately will have to adopt ordinances, if any, to put items on the ballot for consideration. Your charter was adopted in 1958, which is probably a pretty good year back then, but we're many years away from 1958. To that extent, I think it's important to know that the Charter Board is a public entity. It's been meeting very diligently for a period of weeks and months now, and they're about to wrap up, I think, Madam Clerk, sometime soon, correct?
I'm sorry.
The Charter Board is going to be finishing up soon?
Yes, we
I
have
think you told
one
me to, Warren.
meeting next Monday.
Yeah.
And I believe that after that, there might be maybe one more, but that would be it.
Yeah. I mean, the charter for the city is the constitution of the town of Pembroke Park. It's a really important document. It's a guidepost. It's a guiding light as to how you do business. The Code of Ordinances flows from the charter. And to that extent, the charter is a very, very important document. You have a very unique form of government in the town of Pembroke Park. There's none other like it in Broward County. You have a strong mayor in Plantation, and you have a strong mayor in Lighthouse Point, both of whom are very different in the context of the law. In one instance, they can break a tie, which means that the mayor can't talk to other commissioners, and in some instances that the mayor can only veto. So at Lighthouse Point, for example, the mayor is the mayor. He can only veto legislation, but that's independent of having a conversation with the commissioners. In Plantation, the mayor can break a tie. And because the mayor can break a tie, the mayor can vote. If the mayor can vote, the mayor can't talk to the other commissioners. This town's a very different place in that regard. This used to be the way government was run, but that was, again, back in the day. And that's not to say it's a bad form of government, just it's the government form we have. And the Charter Commission, Charter Board has the right to make the recommendations, and you have the obligation and responsibility to consider them. So I hope that answers your question, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thanks
The
for
charter
having me.
hasn't been updated since when?
1958.
58. So I pushed to have the charter updated and have a charter review. So we put the committee together, and the attorney's been working diligently on going through that process to bring that charter forward.
I thank you for the opportunity, and I was, and again, trying to make you paranoid about the laws that surround you, but you should be a little bit paranoid, just not a lot, that's all. Okay, but thank you for being here, and thank you for the opportunity of making it.
While you're there, any attorney comments?
That's my comments.
All right.
And we'll keep you updated on the pending legislation. Because there are some bills that are onerous, and they are quite scary. And we'll brief you as time goes on. So thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Town manager comments.
Yeah, I have, first of all, he said he didn't have anything prepared. That was major. For my report, I said everything during Public Works. Levy, Bob Levy, there's a lawsuit, that's gonna be hopefully coming to an end soon. I do have, I'm going to for the election, I think in May, so. You know that.
You want to explain who he is?
Bob Levy was the former town manager, and he's requesting his severance and accrued time. And that's all I have for now.
Okay. Any questions?
Nope.
Commissioner comments? Commissioner Shura Mohammed.
Just glad to be back. I look forward to working with everyone and serving our community. Thank you.
Mayor, if I forgot, I was gonna say congratulations to all 5 of you on your re-election. Welcome the 2 newest members, and welcome back, Commissioner Mohammed.
Of all things, that's what you forgot?
That's what I forgot. You know, I forget my bread with butter.
I got you. All right, Commissioner Eric Morissette.
Well, this is going to be a steep learning curve. I can assure you. I'm very honored to be here, and I know a lot of people here that I'm looking forward to work with, and also working together with the citizens and whatever concerns they have. I will do my best. I promise.
Commissioner Musfika Kashem.
I'm new here. I'm here to learning. I want to learn a lot of things about in this society and our residents. Thank you so much to give me the opportunity. I will do my best. Thank you.
Clerk Commissioner Hodgkins.
So I just welcome everybody. I'm glad to see a full commission here. It's going to make things a little more evenly distributed, I think. And welcome all of you.
Thank you.
I don't have any comments. We'll move on to announcements. There are a few that were left off here. Every Saturday from 9 to 1, the community farm is open. You're welcome to come out, get some fresh produce, eggs. There will be some honey coming by the end of summer. The hives are just starting. First Saturday of every single month, we have a food drive with Feeding South Florida. That will be, this month is April 1st. Again, normal hours that we do the food drive, 9 to 1 as well. We have the Charter Review Committee meeting Monday, March 27th at 6 p.m. Regular commission meeting will be Wednesday, April 12th at 7 p.m. Special magistrate hearing will be Wednesday, April 19th at 9 a.m. And a workshop commission meeting will be Wednesday, April 26th at 6 p.m. All right, everyone's favorite time. Make a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Adjournment. The time is now 7:42.